Okay, let's go. Hannelore.
Okay, thank you. Another one. Thank you very much for inviting me tonight to this very nice place and this very interesting presentation of the 1980s, Leningrad 1980s with music, and of course one of the most important performers from that time is sitting to my left, Valery Alakhov from the duo New Composers. And you can already see some pictures of this group behind me. And the Leningrad scene of the 1980s was very specific in that artists, musicians, performers met together and had shared some projects. So the pictures that we see, the photographs, are by artist Yevgeny Kozlov, a friend of Valery's, who is also present, but I would also like to say hello to other artists, another artist from St. Petersburg today, from Boris Kazakov, who is also from that crowd, and some other friends who are here, so welcome tonight. Valery, you started rather early with your friend Igor Verichev. How was the beginning? When did you first perform?
Guten Tag. Okay, so we have very close friends actually, not many people, unfortunately, but anyway, it's like I see real good friends of things what we have here. And I'm so glad that I have Evgeny Kozlov. He's the most important person for me, for my life. It's my very good close friend, and he is artist, photographer, and he make a picture of this photo that what we have here. Thank you very much, Evgeny. So you make good memory of things what we have in 80s time. And of course, Boris Kazakov also is my friend. He came from St. Petersburg some few days ago and do something art here, and he managed a fantastic animation video for the New Composers some long time ago, and still like a lot because it's handmade movie. And also my friend from Rotterdam, my very deep friend, Bob Stout, with whom we create very nice music. Actually, it's a kind of modern music of 90s, like techno music, dance tracks, which became it's very big hit in Russia. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. It's kind of hymn of the techno music in Russia nowadays. Thank you, you coming here. And
can I ask you a question? I know this was one of the first records.
Yes,
it's
this
called
is the first record.
In the Culture. I know that it was recorded in Leningrad in 1985.
85, exactly, yes.
But it was a co-production.
Co-production with a famous musician, famous artist in Russia, Sergei Koryohin. So he's the biggest leader of avant-garde and underground music in Russia those times, like in Leningrad. It's first kind of very special records called Insect Culture. Popular Mechanic. Popular Mechanic it's united a lot of underground and let's say kind of
Popular Mechanic was Kuryohin's idea, and it was a big, huge performance on a stage, which was very unusual for the time. A combination of jazz musicians, of rock musicians, of animals, of people dancing. So it was if we think of the years of of the early perestroika period, 1985, 1986. It was very unusual for the Soviet Union, and it happened in Leningrad. Why was it in Leningrad and not, say, in Moscow? Or what do you think? What was the reason that it happened in Leningrad?
Right. The difference, okay, Leningrad, those time, it was like kind of one big point where people, young people who wants to have like freedom from to the art. So we have kind of one collaboration. Moscow never have one collaboration. So have like local collaborations, but not like in St. Petersburg, in Leningrad at that time it was just one. So we know only few leaders like Sergei Korykhin and Timur Novikov as an artist.
And they brought everyone else together.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But this was not a very long period. How many years did it last that you had a common movement of many people?
Well, it's definitely 5 years.
5 years.
From 85 till 90.
To 90. Then when the Soviet Union collapsed and the country opened, people went to do their own projects.
Yes, exactly. Everything disappeared.
So the first, I should mention that the group of artists to which Kozlov belonged, Evgeny Kozlov belonged, was called the New Artists, and one very specific features of his art is that I'll try now to show it with one hand, Evgeny Kozlov painted, thank you very much, Valery, painted many portraits of his artist friends in a very unusual way, a very innovative way, which also shows that there were bonds between the artists, and they did not just do things together for fun, but there was really a spiritual background in this collaboration. I would like to put a little piece of your early music, because your partner, musical partner, Igor Verichev, was very fond of sounds, and especially of word sounds. So he created music for the new composers, which was very unusual at the time, sampling and syllable repetition. I'll try now to ask Alexander if we quickly find this piece, and it's a musical piece which is called two music pieces. It should be okay, so let's hear a little piece of a sound piece of one of your early compositions.
Прекрасна ты жизнь, прекрасна ты жизнь, и ничего мы на свете так не любим, как жизнь, как жизнь. Что-то далекое и вместе с тем близкое, близкое. Что-то далекое и вместе с тем близкое. Но кажется, что понятна и близка страсть.
It is really, one can feel that the sounds are just as important as the meaning, isn't it? It's doubling the sounds, it's like eating the language, it's savoring, it's like you devour them, you double them, you know, it's pri. and it's a game, and it is. You did this not with electronic instruments. You did this in a very
Tape recorder.
old-fashioned way.
Yeah,
How did
we
you
will
do?
see.
Yeah. Okay.
This
Can
is-
you say some words about how you actually? Where did you get the original sounds from, and how did you work through them?
All right. Well, unfortunately, it's a Russian language. It's most important to know what it's about. Like you have to know Russian actually. It's make you funny. It's a lot of humor in this, and of course very kind of unique way to
Creative.
creative, very very creative way. But it's not music. It's a kind of collages. We call it collages. It's about our music collages.
There are some expressions which are cliché expressions. Isn't something beautiful? There's something beautiful, and then you rework this, and you made it. It's like it becomes something like a mantra. Really, you repeat it so often that it loses the sense, and you have to be very exact. You have to be very precise.
Exactly.
So it's a big work. It is very different from improvisation, really. It is very calculated, isn't it?
Well, yes, yeah, it was kind of work. But what is the sounds came from? Okay, this is let's say from state radio. So some artists speaking poetry or read some books, famous artists, famous voices. That's why it was important, because we need to have very professional, nice voices. So artists had. Okay, and we first who start to destroy it, normal way of.
It's a special kind of humor also. In Russian you call it step, isn't it?
Step, yeah.
Yeah, that is it's an ironic, a very ironic interpretation of an official language, and it's also very funny. I would like to give another short example, maybe, Alexander, of the kind of humor it developed. So it's very specific for the 1980s. So we really see that you used everything that was available, and you put in a lot of speed. You accelerated the music, and the pitch gets higher, and it transforms everything, and it gets, well, I like it. But this was a period from the 1980s, and which lasted up to 1890, there were some famous songs you created that were hits also in other countries, in England. So can you tell us a bit about how your music came. I think Я хочу танцевать was a big hit in other countries. Wasn't it disco music or techno club music?
Well, it's already 90s, but we are talking about 80s. So this is avant-garde music. We made it especially for our friends as artist scenes. So only avant-garde generation, let's say progressive generation, can distribute such music. It was difficult to show to the normal public, let's say. So it's very special. So anyway, it is the paintings, the artists really love such music because it creates a lot of imagination, kind of ideas to do some paintings actually. So we are as a not the musicians, but we are the sound artists. So it's we think that this is okay. This is art of the sound. This was the conception, but okay has been gone. We do for some years, but definitely we stopped such avant-garde music in the 90s because okay, this time we already wanna do further things, do music. The music with electronics device, and we like music, and at those times we already have not only the tape recorder, but became first computers, synthesizers. So then we start to make another music, and in 90s, okay, it's new music, techno music, let's say, and somehow we went to the West. Probably it was from the Soviet Union country, but we turned back when the Soviet Union has collapsed actually. And Sputnik single were recorded in England in 1990, became a very big hit in the clubs, and Танцевать did with my friend from Rotterdam, Bob, and became also hits in Europe, and especially were really welcome in Russia.
We will hear Sputnik now. Are we?
It's a very funny announcement.
Yeah, I would like. Yeah, okay. We're going to hear.
В Париже. Я узнала, что на Западе у них уже полгода все просто мечтают о спутнике жизни в лице новых композиторов. У нас тоже все хотят спутника. И видно, это желание вывело композиторов, подбросило композиторов на первое место нашей таблицы. Наши странички заканчиваются. Пишите нам, звоните нам. До свидания.
this was a real hit. And I think it still is a hit, isn't it? It's still it's still being played, Sputnik?
Yes, Sputnik, it's the first house track, the first techno track of Russia, actually.
Okay.
So, because the pioneers of electronic kind of style. It's not like we do to specially to be the, let's say, but we was looking to make, we got a new chance, new possibilities. Okay, we went to the West, and we tried to collaborate it with.
The first techno club in Leningrad, still in 89, 90, was in a private apartment, and it is really just an empty derelict house, and it was called Tanzpol. And it became famous because it was, I don't know to say, the mother of all Tanzpols, of all clubs, and that is where the scene started. And we have another video where we will show first a little bit how it is possible to not only dance to your music, but even to paint to your music. And then we'll have another look to Tanzpol with all the big stars of that piece. So let's just see. That was the building. By the way, it's my picture, which I took in 1990.
Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Кислота. Кислота. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Кислота. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Кислота. Олимпия. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Кислота. Танц. Танцевать. Танц. Танцевать. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело. Кислота. Олимпия. Я хочу танцевать, я хочу двигать тело.
Ты фотографии все не делал? Что? Я показываю. Нет.
Valery.
Many people in Russia today, when they see this video, they think of the old times when everything was just beginning, and there's of course one name connected to that, which is the name of the group Kino, which we just heard. Kino was a rock group, and of course you were a friend of them, and they were your friends. It was a different musical direction. Yours were electronic music, quite avant-gardist, and they were rock musicians, but with the singer Victor Tsoi they had a huge success. And now, by the way, in Berlin, the film is just coming out. It's just being screened later. So we now have it. So it gives a romantic image almost of the 1980s. What are your feelings when you look back to the 1980s? Of course, we were all very young, so already this is a reason for being romantic. But do you think it was a good time for creation? 1980s. How do you see that?
Fantastic time, exactly, fantastic time. We can experiment so much and many things, okay, like what we have nowadays, okay, small audience, almost our close friends, but those times was full of people from just because they wanted to see what is new, what is another culture, what is kind of let's say new form of music, new form of design and stuff. So it's a fantastic time.
Yeah, I would like to mention, thank you Alexander for showing this picture. It's a picture of Evgeny Kozlov collage Kino, which was shown at the exhibition which was in Berlin in March, April at the Akademie der Künste, notes from the underground, and we made a reproduction of this large collage, and we now sell it as a poster, so if you want to buy it, you can have it at the entrance. So Kino was a big star, and then of course Victor Tsoi died in a car accident tragically in 1990, but he's now a hero in Russia, isn't he? It was a different direction, of course, from you, but you had many points of contacts. You did not separate by sections. You did not say, I do not want those because they're doing rock and we are doing this, or I don't like those because they're doing jazz. You know, the musical scene was not very large, and there were many points of contacts between all these shows.
Как я говорил, что что Ленинград отличался тем, что это была одна какая-то компания. То есть, где встречались разные художники, разные музыканты, разных стилей, направлений. И объединяли нас этот лидер, как себе, Галюхин, который всех собирал. Это поп-механика, была ваша поп-механика.
What was very, Valery says, what was very specific about the Leningrad scene is that the diversity of artists and musicians all didn't mean that they would meet. Quite on the contrary, they would meet, and especially with Pop Mechanica on stage, they were just having fun together. It was, Pop Mechanica was a big enterprise, it was chaotic, it was very loud, and it was a lot of fun. But when Sergei Kuryokhin started to tour with Pop Mechanica in the West, I think he got somehow disappointed, because it was not the same thing touring outside the home country and showing this. It became a kind of business. And one of his principles, as I know, was to be spontaneous. It was very important for Kuryokhin to do things spontaneously. Now, when you are outside, you cannot be so spontaneous, because there has to be rehearsals and all that. So there's one point which has often been mentioned. Kuryokhin in the 90s started to become radical, even politically. Did that have any impact on you, or did you continue to be friends, or did you meet not very often because the new composers were doing their records and their music and he was on other projects, so maybe you lost contact, or how was your relation in the 1990s?
Сергей Корехин, конечно, оставался нам большим авторитетом, и я участвовал даже на самых последних поп-механиках, которые закончились в связи с его смертью. На последних двух поп-механиках я участвовал. Это были две самых лучших для меня и Сергея мероприятия. Мы тогда очень хорошо почувствовали друг друга, очень все было здорово. Но вот, к сожалению, вот эти лидеры, как Цой, как Выхин, как Новиков, это не ушли. Это был очень важный авторитетный лидер для нас.
Sergei Kuryokhin was a very important person. He had a lot of authority in the field of culture, of music, and Valery says that he participated in the last Pop Mechanica performances. They were in 1995, and Sergei Kuryokhin died in 96 in summer, so this was very unexpected. He was still very young, and not only Sergei Kuryokhin passed away, but also other important figures. We mentioned Tsoi in 1990 already, Timur Novikov, who was another important leader. So these leading figures who somehow integrated the others, they are not there any longer. But of course we don't know how their integrating function would be today, because it's very different. However, because I studied a lot of Sergei Kuryokhin, and I noticed that he had this will to do away with everything old and break away the old culture, and he got very radical. Do you think that he was a romantic, or was it just radical, or was it just words, or do you see him as a political leader or just a cultural leader?
He is a super culture leader, of course.
A culture leader, and he is still a very important figure. There's a big festival today, Kuryokhin Festival in St. Petersburg. I think it takes place every year, isn't it?
Every year.
And they award prizes, they have awards for best performance, best music, and so on. So it has become an institution already. So let's come back to you. You are still very active, which is good, because not everybody who was active in the 80s and the 90s is still active. What are your current projects? What are you doing? What is your, with whom are you working together, apart from Igor Berichev, the other new composer? What are your current projects, and what would you like to do in the future?
All right, I still doing music, still perform, and what is special time we live right now? Okay, electronic music, it was good in the 90s, I think, was quite fresh, quite new things, but nowadays became it's very like normal music. It's thousands, millions doing such a music, so there's no difference actually. It's not interesting for me anymore. And what about the things what was in the past? We try to find out. Okay, it was kind of music what we done by, сказать, без, скажем по-русски, это была очень
Okay, I will help you, because I brought this. I know that you should have brought it, but I did. It's a production which came out 3 years ago, and it's called, as you see, Start, and we are lucky because we have many signatures of people who participated as musicians, and again as an artist. Again we have Yevgeny Kozlov, very important, and his pictures inside. It is a very interesting piece of music, because you used old tapes from 1986 87 or
87. Yeah.
87, and you re-edited them?
No, this is
Original,
This is
original, with 5 musicians, they are here, and your plan is now to bring them live on stage. Am I correct to say
Yes,
that?
exactly.
So who are you working with this project?
Well, I'm working with the musicians from Kino.
From Kino.
Kino group. Yuri Kasparyan.
Okay, I'll keep this for a second. Yuri Kasparyan. So this is interesting because many years later, new composers work again together with Kino, and you are using this material. You're doing some new stuff with that, and I think today you're going to play something for us also.
Yes, I would play soon this
From that.
project
Okay.
of 80s because what we like in this time, because the music was, the art was really into a lot of love, a lot of feelings.
Feelings. Yeah.
Without commercial, let's say it's.
And very good vibrations, I would say. I would like to show you some pictures from that time of the new composers, because those of you who saw the newspaper Taz on Friday, I think it was the Friday edition, here's the original photograph from 1985, and it shows the new composers. So we have Valery Alakhov to the right and Igor Vejev to the left, and it was a series of pictures also with Sergei Kuryokhin. We have here, I just decided to bring these vintage photos along because they were already printed at that time, and so they are quite unique. They were also presented, the series of pictures was also presented at the exhibition Notes from the Underground, so they're quite appreciated. So it's very important to feel that 30 years ago was only a beginning, and it is still very fresh, and is still very much felt, and maybe other things from 10 years ago from other people is say, okay, this was a fashion at one time, but here we enjoy music that has a drive. And any questions by you, Alexander? Or?
No, rather, first of all, a commercial footnote, because one track of this collaboration with Kino is, of course, here available.
Yes.
It's double vinyl.
Correct.
Notes from the Underground. And actually, I would suggest, because right now we go to the live part of the event. Valery will perform with material from the 80s. And maybe if you like to dance, because it's danceable, we should push away the chairs, if you might help us. And in order to entertain you while you are working for us and yourself, we could show you a very interesting film I've got from Valery when we did this on Friday in Leipzig already, under the flag of 25 years of Zonic, if you might mention this again. And it's a short movie by Aspekte, ZDF magazine back then, which went pretty often, as it turns out now for me, to the east, especially one guy. There are also reports on like Westbam when you visited and met Eastbam in Riga. And by the way, Westbam performed with Pop Mechanica in '87. The first record, the first album, not the first record, but the first album by Westbam is a live recording with Pop Mechanica in Riga. So you see all these things in a way connected, and that's also the mission of Zonic, to show these connections, or at least to let it look like there were connections. So you can, anyway, and so we will show you this. It's from '89. They were visiting the LEM, Experimental Theater. You will hear the other track by Novel Compositor, which is available on this double vinyl. Notes from the Underground. Max Industry, very nice cut up from '85, which is also very interesting because it, in a way, is abusing, if I may say so, Shostakovich, the Leningrad Symphony, and the rest you will see. So it's in German. So okay, thanks for attention and
stay
few
with
minutes.
us.
Thanks Hannelore.
You're welcome.
Thanks Valery. And yeah, well,
We'll continue.
we'll continue and keep curious, please. Yeah.
Thank you.
One question, please.
Questions?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
questions.
Any questions?
Валерий, a bit, please, вкратце расскажите о своем сотрудничестве как новые композиторы с известной мировой звездой в музыке Брайан Ина.
Okay, the question was by Evgeny Kozlov, and he asked Valery Alakhov to say some words about his collaboration. He's working together with a very famous musician, with Brian Eno.
Yes, Brian Eno were the first producer, such a big level, who came to meet the artist in Soviet Union time in 1980.